The stylus cantilever assembly is going to be affixed somewhere over here where it's constrained. But we don't want this energy down here to be translated to the system up here, because that would be lost energy. And if this system up here is waving about in sympathy with us translating the groove, then if this system up here is going to be moving about, it will create its own signal into the engine, the motor of the cartridge, which then becomes part of your noise floor. That's where I live with all of our research, is in the noise floor. The benefits you haven't heard yet. And that's what we research. What is underneath our noise floor you haven't even heard, you're not even aware you're missing, but is there for the taking if you make the conditions just so. So the most important location then is then going to be right at that flexure. We want that flexure, that pivot point of the cantilever, to remain infinitesimally still. We do not want it to move. We want the cantilever coil former side to wave about, to follow the groove, and the other side of that pivot point remain immeasurably still, so that the engine can do its job. Every tone arm in the world fails at this, to greater or lesser degrees. And there's many different ways they can fail at this. We'll talk a little bit about that. So what are the conditions then? I said, well, if the best tone arm in the world would have infinite mass and infinite rigidity, well, that would do it, right? We would have a perfectly still flexure that allowed the stylus cantilever assembly to do its job. However, obviously we couldn't follow a spiral. That's not going to work too well. And so we need to offer two moments of freedom. We need to offer this horizontal moment of freedom and a vertical moment of freedom. When you add additional moments of freedom, you're offering another opportunity to rob energy from the groove, like, for example, unstabilized unipivots, right, that allow this motion. Doesn't mean it's going to be bad sounding, but you're losing information and increasing your noise floor, guaranteed. This is measurable, right? So yeah, we want to constrain it in as many moments of freedom as we can. 2 is acceptable. We have to accept that as part of the failure, all right? But even with that failure from the outset, it's absolutely miraculous what we can get from the groove. Now, I also understand it's very important to understand the scale of the displacements of the stylus. Why is that important? Because we tend to think, I think many cartridge manufacturers, tone arm manufacturers, turntable manufacturers aren't thinking small enough. Here's what we know. The smallest perturbation of the groove wall that we can, displacement of the groove wall that we can amplify through the phono stage, the preamp, the amplifier, and eventually here, can be measured in the single-digit nanometer region. Now, there are 1 million nanometers in the thickness of your credit card. That's how tiny this world is, that gets amplified to the degree that it becomes part of our musical experience. And it's in those tiny, tiny displacement where the realism lives, right? So that flexure, that most important location in the turntable, we don't want it to move in the micron region, or even the nanometer region, or potentially even in the picometer region. Actually, because there's a lever arm between the stylus and the coil former, that's usually 6-to-1 or 7-to-1. For every 1 unit of displacement here, you got to reduce it by 1/7 or 1/6 here. So we are probably talking picometer region that actually matters. It's absolutely remarkable, the sensitivity. When people say that vinyl playback isn't high definition medium, you haven't taken the time to understand or listen to a truly wonderfully set up and well assembled system. So, all right, so now